The hanging Chad Trico is a spinner pattern, bringing all the essential elements of a Trico pattern to the table. This is how you tie it. A good Klinkhammer style hook is really important for the hanging Chad. Daiichi 1167. This is a size 18. Makes a great choice. Get started with a base of ultra thread 70 denier in black. Bring your thread all the way to the back of the hook and begin to wrap down the bend of that Klinkhammer hook just a bit. For our tail material, we're going to tie in some polar white shimmer. Trico spinners are a bit disheveled when they're laying on the water and their tails are not pristine. So I want a little bit of flash in this tail and also almost make it look like a shuck material hanging off the back side of this hook. So when you pull a little bit of this shimmer, make sure it's got a little of that flash and trim a small section. Capture it on the hook shank and tie it down over the entire length of the body. Trim off any excess and trim the tail to your desired length. I like to keep the rib relatively translucent. I'm going to use a 2-pound monofilament for the rib material. Break off a 4 to 5 inch section of monofilament and tie it down along the body of the hook shank as you go back towards the original tie-in point. After getting that rib tied in, use your ultra thread to begin building the body of this Trico. Tricos have a relatively robust taper to their body with a much fatter thorax than their tail end. After you're satisfied with the taper of your hanging Chad Trico, make evenly spaced spiral wraps forward with your monofilament rib material until you reach the 3/4 point forward on your hook shank. Capture off that monofilament with a few wraps over the top and then a few wraps in front to lock it into place and trim your excess material. After we get the rib tied in, I'm going to adjust the hook on my vise to make sure the eye of this Klinkhammer style hook is parallel to the tying vise. Give me a flat tying surface to finish the rest of this fly. Next, we're going to tie in our wing material, which is a forward facing wing. For that, we're going to use CDC Tufts. This is Nature Spirit CDC. With these tufts, I would use 2 or 3 feathers depending upon the size of your hook and the quality of your CDC material. Just pair the tips and stroke the feathers to combine them. Bring them to the top of your hook shank. Capture the CDC material on top of the hook shank with 1 or 2 loose wraps, and then pull the butt ends rearward to make this CDC the length that you desire. Once you get it where you want it, make securing wraps rearward before trimming your excess CDC butt ends and then covering that cut piece with thread before coming forward with your thread wraps and building a little dam in front of that CDC, making a few wraps around the base of the CDC just to give it a good foundation for sitting straight up and out. You want this wing facing almost a 45-degree angle forward over the eye of the hook. What makes this pattern deadly is this halo hackle that we wrap under the CDC feather that helps it sit right on the surface of the film, leaving the body to hang underwater. For that, we're going to use a hackle from a dry fly mini pack. This is Grizzly. I'm going to pull off all the fuzzy butt ends from the bottom of the feather before trimming the stem off, just leaving about an 1/8 inch on the bottom side. Bring that feather to the front side of the hook and capture it just behind the CDC feathers, and then pull that feather up to straighten it out and make a wrap behind it before moving ahead again and capturing the remaining stem just behind the eye of the hook. Bring your thread back again to tie in a thorax. You can change it up a little bit. You can use a flashy black material like a gunmetal Firestar or a peacock Firestar. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit and go with midnight purple Firestar. I just like that purple flash and the sparkle of the UV Firestar dubbing on these Trico patterns. So I'm gonna dub a very light noodle of Firestar dubbing and make a ball of a thorax behind where I tied in the CDC and the hackle feather. Bring that dubbing forward to just behind the CDC. Remove a little bit if you need to, or add some if you need to add a little bit more, and finish with a small ball of midnight purple Firestar dubbing just behind that CDC puff. Once you get the Firestar tied in, we can wrap our hackle feather, which will go in between that Firestar and the CDC puff. Make 2 or 3 wraps of hackle around the hook shank before coming over the top of that hackle feather with your thread and securing it in place, and then coming in front with your thread to lock it. And then I always sneak my thread under that CDC and back around the eye of the hook to finish the tying process. Once I get my thread in front of the CDC and around the eye of the hook, I'll invert my hook shank and make a few half hitches to finish the fly. You can trim off the tag end of hackle feather after you get it secured in place, and then add a few half hitches to finish the tying process. Add a dab of super glue or UV resin on the underside of the hook to solidify the thread. Stick a bodkin in the eye of your hook to ensure that it doesn't get clogged up with resin, and then hit it with the light to solidify it. This is a fantastic pattern when tricos are going. I like to fish this by itself or in tandem with an adult trico pattern. They're either going to take one or the other, and it has been a fantastic fly for me when the tricos are prominent. I hope it helps you out on your home waters. These are all the materials you need to tie the hanging Chad Trico. Head down to your local fly shop and ask for Larva Lace by name. If they don't have the materials you need to tie all your favorite flies, make sure to tell them to go to hagensfish.com. They can check out our online catalog, or they can email Lori to get the best, high-quality synthetic fly tying materials offered anywhere on the market. Larva Lace is a product of hagensfish.com. Check out our social media pages and make sure you follow us online to receive all fishing and fly fishing updates. Please like and comment on this video. That's the best way to help other people find our fly tying tutorials. And subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get monthly updated content from the Larva Lace community. Thanks for tying with Larva Lace. Here's to tight lines and well-tied flies.